Welcome back to Azure Terraformer. As I mentioned in our last episode, we're going to be switching gears and doing some more work with Terraform using pipelining tools. But before we can do that, we have to set up our backend. So the backend is really critical for pipelining tools and any sort of multi-user Terraform activity, because it allows you to share state across computers. I mean, as we all know, Terraform's essentially a command line interface application, CLI application. You have to tell Terraform to store state in some shared location that other users, whether they be human or machine, can consume together. So with a pipelining tool, this is of the utmost importance, unless you're doing what I would consider kind of edge case scenarios where you are just jitting environments, to run integration tests or something like that. But most of the time, when you're provisioning long-lived environments that you want to manage using Terraform, you are going to need to set up a backend somewhere. So today we're just going to provision a backend and we're going to use it. So in episode 007, I'm actually going to break from convention, and I'm going to create a backend. I'm going to create a backend folder, and that's where I'm going to start my first provisioning. So this folder is going to be a root module. It's going to provision a storage account, a resource group, and a storage account that I'm going to use as the backend for another project that I'm going to show you how to configure to use the Azure RM backend. So basically, the plan is, with this backend module, I'm going to one-shot deploy a resource group and a storage account. And then in in another module, let's call this my app, right? I'm going to configure this application to use the backend such that when I run Terraform with this application, it's going to use the back end of Terraform to save state. So that's the plan. So for my backend, of course, I'm going to need to use the Azure RM provider. I don't think I'm going to use random. I will need variables. I will need West US. And I think for my resource group, I'm just going to keep it really simple and just name it RG Terraform. Okay, so I'm going to create a resource group, RG Terraform, in US West. And interestingly, with resource groups, they do not need to be globally unique. They actually don't need to be globally unique within your subscription. They just need to be globally unique within a region. So one practice that I use is I just use RG Terraform, in multiple regions where I want to deploy where I want to have replicas of my Terraform state. So that's one technique. You can to each their own, but to me it seems pretty neat and tidy. Oh, I do think I will need random, so I'm going to bring back that random provider, because when I generate my storage account, I am going to use a random, maybe not a random string, but maybe a random number. What was it, episode 2, where we deployed a storage account? Oh, whoa, that was way back in episode 1. Yeah, so I'm just going to grab a storage account, and we're going to drop this in here, and we're going to use a random string. I guess I'll just use a random string. And we will generate a random string for our storage account. It's going to look a little funky. st random string, st main, GRS, that's fine. And I think we should be good. So let me go back to there. Let me do Terraform. Ooh, I'm going to drop into my backend directory. I'm dropping into MS-DOS. Interesting. All right, let's get this going. And let's get this thing provisioned. Now, while that's being provisioned, I've got my app. On my app, I'm just going to take my standard resource group with the random naming convention, and we'll just call this episode 7. And that'll give us a resource group with the random name. And you know what? That's probably enough. I am going to need these variable inputs and the TFRs. So basically, my super sophisticated application consists of a resource group. That's it. However, the Terraform state for said resource group is going to be provisioned to my Azure RM backend, which I'm going to show you how to configure now. We're waiting for the storage account, so here we go. So this is where we can configure a backend. So the way this is defined is using a backend block. You specify the backend type. So just like the different providers, Terraform provides a strategy pattern for implementing backend, which is pretty brilliant. And so in this situation, each backend has its own contract. So when you use AWS, you're going to use S3. When you use Google Cloud, you're going to use their Google Cloud storage. On Azure, we're going to use Azure Blob Storage. And in that situation, to navigate to an Azure Blob Storage, you need a resource group name, you need a storage account name, you need a container, not a Docker container, but a blob storage container. Okay, this nomenclature way predates Docker and Kubernetes, so we can give ourselves a little pass there. And then we need a key. And the key is the only thing that uniquely identifies the current project. So I'm going to grab this. I'm pretty sure I already have the Terraform block in my versions. So again, I'm in my application. I'm not in my backend. Looks like my backend storage is already completed. So I've got my Terraform block and I have a required providers block. I'm going to add the backend block, and now I've got these things here, right? So yeah, so in order to get these things, I need to go look at what was this backend deployment that I just did. So if I go back to my resource groups and I do Terraform, we're going to look at this one, and we've got this storage account right here. So we got Terraform, that's the storage account name. I'm sorry, that's the resource group name. The storage account name is this nasty string here. The container, one thing I did forget was to provision a container. Easily rectified. I'm just going to go back here and go to container, and it's going to bring up a bunch of stuff actually related to modern day containers, but I also have a storage container, which is actually what I want. And so in my backend deployment, I'm just going to drop a TF state container, declare war on double quotes. It will be private and it will be called TF state. And the storage account reference is this, and we will go run this again against the backend. And you'll notice that I don't have any containers right now, but there will be one really soon called TF state. And once that's done, we'll be good to go. And so, where are we at? Versions, okay. So the container name is going to be TF state, and I'm going to call this Marks app. Marks-app to make it more readable. Terraform seems completely unnecessary. Honestly, does it even need a .tf state? I don't know. Probably not. we're going to see what happens. Yeah, we're just gonna roll with this and see what happens. There we go. So it's done. So now, where am I? pwd cd ... and I'm going to go to app. Now I'm going to go to Terraform init. And now is where we're going to be initializing the backend. And we should be talking to the Terraform state out there in the place, out there in the storage account right here. Let me refresh my containers there. Yes, awesome. Look at that, Marks-app. Kind of a cheesy name, but whatever, it works. And so we've done a Terraform initialize, and there is nothing. Let's go look at that state. Let's look at the state file. There should be nothing in there. It's just like, yep, checks out, all good. This is my Terraform version, all that good stuff. Because I haven't done an apply. And so right now I'm just going to run Terraform apply auto approve. And we're gonna look at what happens with my Terraform state. Waiting. Any second now. Awkward pause. Let me drink some tea. That always speeds things up. There we go. Nice. Fantastic. So now I should have some random EP7 EP. Did I add an EP prefix? I did. Refresh. Okay, good. So EP7, it's just an empty resource group, whatever. So now if we go look at our Terraform, let's go look at our Terraform state. We go look at our container, TF state, markup, TF state, and now look at that. We got some stuff in here. We got a resource group, and it's being managed. You can go check out your Terraform state file. This would basically be saved locally on my computer if I did not specify a backend. And anything that I add to my Terraform, it's going to add to this TF state file and manage it. Now, what I want to show you now is how Workspaces works in this environment. So I am in app, so I'm going to go Terraform Workspace new dev, and that's going to switch to a different Terraform workspace. And now I'm going to do Terraform init, and this is going to initialize a new workspace called dev. And so out here we should see, Mark's app, TF state, env::dev. So this is kind of an implementation detail of the Azure RM backend, which, I could, if I had a little bit more forethought, I could have, thought about how I wanted to set up my naming conventions for the app, for the key within the backend, to be a little bit more conducive to this naming convention. But env::dev, env::workspace name is going to get appended to this environment. And so if I run a Terraform apply, I'm going to generate an entirely new instance of this application. It's going to generate a whole new random string, and it's going to save that implementation into a new state file, which it's created here called dev. Right now you can see this one's only 155 bytes, And if you recall, that's what my original default TF state file was before I ran apply. But after this apply completes, I'm expecting the size to be exactly the same. And I'm expecting to see some additional resource groups out here with EP7. So right now I've got EP7 Z West Virginia 3X. Okay. So now I should have a new one, and it is, I love that, my random provider speaking German. Z West Virginia, ja. Where is it? There should be another. No. So I know it's there. It's RG EP7 Kilo 3 Rex. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it just showed up. So there we go. So if I go look into my Terraform state again, I will be able to see Z West Virginia in my default workspace, which is right here. Z West Virginia, yeah. And we have Kilo 3 Rex. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how Terraform state backends work. And with workspaces, it's kind of interesting to see how the different state files get saved. So if I were to go and create a new prod workspace and then run apply again, I'm going to have yet another instance of this application that I'm maintaining a completely different state file for, so that I can maintain multiple long-term versions. So this is a very useful way of efficiently managing multiple environments for a single deployment. So if you have different stages of your life cycle that you're deploying for, dev, test, QA, prod, pre-prod, etc., you can use Terraform Workspaces in conjunction with your Terraform backend to basically fork those state files and keep separate copies of these, which is an insanely useful thing to do. So yeah, there we go. So I have, and it's 1.69 KB. And in here we got 0 Whiskey Yankee. All right, nice. So there you go. So my backend is fully set up. I'm going to use this backend in the next episode when I set up an Azure DevOps pipeline. So again, like and subscribe. Enable your notifications so you can be aware of when I post my next video. And I think we'll probably be doing Azure DevOps and then GitHub next. So let's saddle up. Thanks. See you guys.